So, Calliope, welcome to Breaking Par. So glad that you could be on our show today.
Well, thank you for having me, Bernard. I appreciate it.
Oh,
It's great to be with you.
it's my pleasure. So, tell us a little bit about because you have a book out that's called "Play Golf Better Faster," and that's an intriguing title because I don't think that there's anybody who picks up a golf club who doesn't want to play better faster. That's for sure.
Sure. Yes. Well, I played professionally several years ago, and I met a man named Chuck Hogan who didn't teach me a whole lot about golf swing mechanics, but taught me rather how to use my thinking to improve my game. So he guided me through a bunch of uh, brain skills. For instance, uh, if you have a bad shot, there is no such thing as failure because each and every shot has something to teach you so that you do actually improve. And I find that that's probably one of the most challenging things for golfers is that when they can practice in ways that they do actually improve instead of this rote learning where it's ball after ball after ball in one spot. By choosing different spots on a golf range to land a different target each and every time, you have a better chance of playing better on the course because the whole point of practicing is to learn. And the whole point of playing is to score less. So they're two very different things. And you work on different things while you do both. So, in terms of this brain technique that he taught me, whenever you have a bad shot, so for instance, Einstein, it took him 1,000 tries to figure out how to make the light bulb, but he figured out 1,000 ways that it didn't work. So that was of value as well. So the same works with your golf game. Each and every shot, if you take the time to actually notice what it is that you did after a shot, you have the chance to learn what you need to so that the next shot you make is even better. And so, go ahead.
No, so I'm saying so this becomes a learning process where when because so many people I think are afraid of failure, and I think that especially in golf, so many of us are so worried about we're more afraid about failing than we are about succeeding. So if we don't worry about failure and we say, hey, you know what? It's okay to fail because if we fail, we'll kind of learn from that. We'll get a better understanding as to what we did wrong, so that when we go about this again, our odds are better that we're not going to create the same mistake.
That's correct. And it takes mental discipline to actually think that there really is no such thing as failure because each and every experience offers something that you can learn from. And I think that from an early age, we're taught to find things that are wrong. So when you're in school, teachers mark your tests with red X's. Well, imagine if instead they marked your test papers with green checks for every answer that you got right instead of every answer that you got wrong. So I think in some aspect, a lot of us are taught from a very early age just to look for what's wrong instead of looking for what's right. And so taking that responsibility, we can change that. So by taking a shot and noticing, okay, well, basically what happened is if the shot didn't go the right way, what can I do to make the square face have a center of contact with the center of the ball? Because that's what it's really all about. The center of the club face striking through the center of the ball to land the center of the target. Doesn't matter what the backswing does. It's all about the forward swing. And you look at these beautiful picture perfect swings, and then there are swings out there. I mean, I've been here at the Arnold Palmer Invitational all weekend watching the players play, and you see how dynamic some of these swings are, whether they're swing perfect or more like, let's say, a VJ Singh or how Arnold Palmer used to swing. I mean, certainly he didn't have the most perfect swing, but he had such a strong will to chase that ball into his target. And that's what ideally got his ball to his target. And he was as successful as he has been in his life to have this wonderful tournament in his hometown. So, yeah, and you look at Mark Every, who just won yesterday, and I mean, he has a beautiful swing. That's not as picture perfect either. I mean, you could tell that his he feels through his swing as well, and yet he still won the tournament.
Yeah, so I mean, that was he was actually defending his title here. Yes.
That's right. Yeah, yeah. It was his second win, back-to-back wins,
Yeah, so
and
which is great for him. I mean, and it's always nice to see that when a player gets to defend. That really shows that that mental fortitude is there. That's a big part of what they do. Do you believe in that?
oh, absolutely. And it's at that level of play. I mean, there are over 70 players out there in the field this weekend. And if you consider the talent and the skill each one of them has, what really makes the difference is how they think at the game at that level, because they all have the skill and the talent. And in fact, if you take a look at someone like Mark Every, who just won back to back as of yesterday, he was able to remember his experience. He anchored the win last year in his mind. And I believe that some part of him, because he knew that he could win this tournament, that he actually did win it. So he did something very smart that I think there are quite a bit of players who do win back-to-back tournaments each year because that win from the previous year is anchored in their mind as a success. So it just brings the confidence and the will knowing that they can do it again. And what I'm saying is that each and every shot can be that way because whether you've done it or thought it, your brain does not know the difference between what it's observed or what it's performed or what it's thought. So when you look at golf players like Mark Every or Rory McIlroy or Adam Scott and even some of the other bigger players or Lydia Ko, whether you look at them, when you look at them, you're actually taking in their experience of the golf game. And that's probably one of the most prevalent things any golfer can do, whether weekend ball player or amateur, is watch what the pros do so that their own skill becomes part of your own. When I was playing, my golf coach told me, look, you've just started the game. Best thing you can do is go play with players who are better than you. And of course, it was quite intimidating because, I mean, my score was very high at the time. And I played with senior players out in Arizona on the Western States Tour, and they truly taught me the game. They were happy to teach me because the more I learned from them and the more enthusiasm I had about the game, it was contagious. They loved the confidence I had in their game, so they even played better. And I learned so much more from them than if I had just been on the golf course trying to do it on my own. You know, I remember there was a player, he was a PGA player and came to play on this little tour in Arizona. He knew he would win, obviously, because he was such a higher caliber, and he did win. But I saw him make an eagle. I was playing with him in the group, and he was on the fairway, and in front of the green there was a big hump of land, so you couldn't actually see the hole on the green. And so what he did was go all the way to the right so that he could have an angular view into the green, took a look at what he was going to do, saw where the ball would land, and then watched it go into the hole. I mean, it was quite precise what he had going on in his mind. He goes back to the ball, takes the shot, and eagles the shot, gets the ball into the hole. And I thought, okay, wow, this is quite incredible to be able to experience how he set up for the shot and actually did pull it off. And that was an experience that was invaluable to me because it made situations like that more possible because I was a part of it. And so the next day, I actually happen to have a very similar shot. And so what did I do? Because I learned from his experience, I went over to the right, looked over at the hole, saw where to land it, where the ball would roll into the hole. I proceeded to take my shot, and I actually eagled the hole. Now, I don't know that many people could pull that off, but the fact is that I believed that it could be done, and therefore I did it. And the magical thing about the brain is that when you lead it and guide it in a certain direction just by stating it or thinking it, it will follow your instructions. It's as simple as that. And you just got to trust that it can happen and believe that you have the ability to make it happen.
I
And
think
magic.
that, yeah, I think that's one of the biggest hurdles, not just in golf, but in life, is that for people who, and to go to regress on what we were talking about earlier, which is that with the teachers and how they'll put a red X when things are incorrect. So a lot of times I believe that our mindset, or for most people, is that they're thinking about how not to be able to do it, or that they can't do something, as opposed to watching someone else who can do it. And then a lot of times they'll still say to themselves, "Oh, they have so much more talent than I do. I could never do that." But if they start to think and believe that they can do that, they may not be able to do it right away, but if they keep doing that and keep working on it, that eventually that's going to happen. I know that too, some people are not real visionary when it comes to shot making, or being able to see a picture in their mind or see the shot or things like that. So, is there ways that you talk about in your book that help players maybe be able to start to do that, or find ways to practice this type of a thing so that they can become a little bit better at it and start to master that in their mind?
Absolutely. Because imagination is your greatest asset. It truly is. Everyone talks about mechanical skills, and you have to set up your ball in a certain way, bring it back a certain way, and bring it forward a certain way. Although the only thing that really matters is the forward swing and having the center of the club face strike through the center of the ball. Your imagination is truly what's going to make it happen, especially under pressure. And so, what I recommend is that you go see players play at a tournament, or you watch them on TV, or even on YouTube. You pick your favorite player and just watch his swing, not only his swing, but how he practices and does his short game, his putting. And step by step, you can simply just look at them swinging, take the shot, watch them follow and chase the ball with their eyes. Because the best golfers out there follow the ball, follow the ball, follow the ball until it stops. They are connected with the ball from the very point that they strike through it to the very point that it lands. And that's probably one of the most important things that they do, and that everyone should be doing, because the idea is to face your outcome at any level. And as you were saying, how can you improve your imagination? When you look at these golfers in their pre-shot routine, in the swing routine, and following through, you simply look at what it is that they do. You take in on an intuitive level what it is that they're thinking, what they're feeling, and what they're hearing. Because the golf game is not just about visualization. That everyone talks about visualizing this and visualizing that, but you are a multi-sensory being. You are feeling, you are hearing, and you are seeing. And if you can hear, I mean, every one of us knows the difference between a well-struck ball and one that isn't. And that well-struck ball sounds a certain way. And feels a certain way. I mean, most people feel like they're weightless. They don't even have a body when they strike it perfectly. And that sweet spot, it sounds a certain way when you strike through it, and the ball lands perfectly. So the idea is to not only visualize the ball, but to hear what it sounds like and to feel what you feel like. as you're making the perfect shot. Now, when you're watching golfers do this, you can simply take in what it is that they're doing and then just shut your eyes for a moment and picture the whole scenario in your mind. Because what's happening is that you're looking at it first, sensing what it is that they're feeling, and hearing what it is that they sounded like, and then closing your eyes to internalize it and think of it on your own. So if you can do that, you're basically having them as a stepping stone to be able to have the own sensory experience in your own mind. It's like cheating. So that when you finally get onto the course, you know what a good sound looks like, sounds like, and feels like. And that's also part of practice. And you'll probably get much farther in your game doing that sitting at home than you would hitting a bunch of balls on the golf range, ball after ball after ball.
Yeah, and that's right there. That, what you just said, is a huge pearl of wisdom for our listeners in Par Nation, because when especially at this time of year, because a lot of it, spring, and pretty much spring was just a couple of days ago. So of course this is pre-recorded, and it'll be out in a few weeks. But there's still snow on the ground where I am, so even though a lot of players can't get out and actually play right now, and in the off season, who are in the northern part of the country or whatever, if they can think about these things, if they and do mental exercises that they're hitting balls, or that they're making contact, or they're going through their pre-shot routine in their mind, or maybe even running through a round of golf on a golf course that they love to play and playing the holes in their mind, the mind doesn't really know the difference between actually doing it and just thinking about doing it. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes, and that's been scientifically proven. Because what we have within ourselves are called something mirror cells, they're called, that basically our brain mirrors activity. This is why it's so important to filter what it is that children see, because they're mirroring what it is that they're seeing. So the same, you can use this to your advantage, so that when it's wintertime and that there's no opportunity to be playing golf, if you watch the golfers, close your eyes and internalize what it is that they're doing, you can allow your brain to, what happens is that your brain starts coordinating in such a way to make the movement happen within your brain cells. I mean, it's quite remarkable and magical in that way, that when your brain mirrors the activity, it's actually performing it inside your own mind. And so when you finally do get to the golf course, you'll see that you do have improvement just by doing these brain exercises.
Sure, because you've really have already done it, even though physically you don't feel like you did it, but actually you really have already done it. So it's just like practicing the real thing. And then if you can work on different shots and things like that, that can help you start to fine tune all these things. And it's really the human brain is a remarkable thing, and I think that most people don't allow it to, or at least realize how remarkable their brain really is. Each and every individual on the planet, they all have that capacity. It's being able to let it happen and believe that it can happen. So is there anything in your book that helps exercises or moves towards meditation or anything like that? Or is it, I mean, give us a little bit more. I don't want you to reveal the whole book to us, but I would like to know a little bit more about some of the things, that topics that the book covers, because I'm assuming that it's mainly covering a lot about the mental game and not about really physical instruction type things.
That's right. And is it all right with you, Bernard, if I mention the name of the book?
Absolutely, we would love you to name the book. Sure.
I thought, okay, it's Play Golf Better, Faster, the classic guide to optimizing your game and building your best fast. And so the book is in three parts. The first part is using your brain. The second part is how to practice so that you do actually improve. And the third part of the book is all about playing and how really the only thing you focus on while playing is the target. It's target awareness. Practicing the game, you take as many risks as you can so that you learn the most. This is where you take the specialty shots. This is where you practice your mechanics. This is where you practice different distances from you to the target so that when you're on the course playing, you're prepared. Any professional who is at a high level at what they do rehearses what it is that they do before they're actually doing it. Actors, businessmen for meetings, athletes. You can see that a lot of these golfers, when they do practice, they often do practice the way that they do play. So they'll take out a driver and then an iron and then a pitching wedge and then perhaps even go putt so that they complete the process from the beginning of the hole to the end of the hole before they even get out there. And so a lot of I also recommend in my book ways to optimize your performance. And at the highest level, I mean, I've heard that the highest level players now are even taking blood tests every several hours just to make sure that their body chemistry is maintaining an equilibrium. Because the truth is that when you use your brain to the optimal and think in ways that make you perform your best, that body chemistry is very different from if you don't think properly. So at the highest level, they're always maintaining their enzymes, their hormones, their electrolytes at a certain level to make sure that their brain and their body is working optimally. And so these are some of the things that I recommend in the book, that proper diet is so important in maintaining focus. Because too often certain foods, especially in the American diet, there's so much sugar in our diets. I think the average American eats about 15 pounds of sugar a year, which is totally unnecessary. But that's just what's in processed foods these days. And it's important to realize that a lot of these foods that are out there are designed. There's so many ingredients to them. I mean, if you can't pronounce a word that's in your food, what makes you think that your body is going to be able to digest it? And with that being said, how can your body perform in its optimal way if it's not eating properly? So what I always recommend for people is that they actually get a food allergy test, because there are all these diets out there. Sure, you can try one diet and this diet, but quite honestly, if you have a food allergy and it's in this diet, then it's not the right diet for you. So instead of going from diet to diet to diet, trying to figure out which one works best for you, what I recommend is actually getting a blood test of what foods you can eat and what you can't eat. Because oftentimes you may be allergic to something and not even know it. Mm. And too often, if a food is causing a food allergy and there's inflammation in the body, that inflammation can go systemic throughout the whole body and cause pain. And sometimes people are misdiagnosed with arthritis and various other diseases when really it's an inflammation caused by a food allergy. And so inflammation also causes a poor brain activity. So the idea is to maintain equilibrium in your body so that you have an equilibrium in the way you play the game. And with this being said, the way you think, I mean, I see that there were some golfers out there who were doing quite well and got quite angry on the golf course. And what happens with any emotion is that it changes your brain chemistry. And if it changes your brain chemistry in a way that you don't control it, this game is so sensitive. Any waver in your thinking and any waver in your biochemistry can change your outcome. And so my book also recommends that You do exercises, and you can do these mild exercises that, I mean, I recommend Tai Chi, which actually oxygenates your blood. It allows the free flow of circulation so that the blood flow goes to your brain. And the more blood flow you have in your brain, the more oxygen. So the more oxygen you have, the better you're going to perform. And the idea is to, if you want to play well, just make it an all-around life experience so that every day is a joy, so that every golf shot is a joy. And that's really what it's meant to be, an enjoyable game that makes our lives better because we're out there doing it.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I think that that's, for me personally, that's why I love golf more than any other sport, is because there's so many parallels in the game and in life, and so many lessons that can be learned on the golf course that we can take into our lives, and vice versa. Overall, I think that it it makes us the way we conduct ourselves on the golf course, things like that. We'll see that a lot of people, that's the way they conduct life. Now, you were saying that these players who play the best, they're able to control those emotions. They're able to, and they're able to stay more on an even keel throughout a round. And now, do you find that those people outside of the game, and I would think they are more of an even keel type person in life too, where they don't let things really get them upset one way or the other. But then again, when we look at the other players who have been very successful, there's some players who get upset, and that works for them. Like at a time, their Tiger, when he was playing some of his best golf, he would definitely blow off some steam, but then he would just go right back in. So does that really entail more of each individual and what is best for them, or do you feel through your research and looking at different players and studying how the mind works in golf that overall the majority of us would be better off if we just didn't let those type of emotions move up and down as much and just try to work on being a little bit more even keel and not getting upset if it's a bad shot or a good shot when we're out on the golf course? I know that for me, I keep trying to explain to my students, it's just a game. It's okay. It's okay if you mess up. It's okay if you shoot a bad score. I know that you're working real hard at this, and I know you want to see results, and when you don't, you feel like you're moving backwards, and that's upsetting. Same as other things in your life. If things aren't going the way you like, you're going to get upset about that. But do you think that for the bulk of these players, that it's better for them to just try to work on maintaining an even keel no matter what?
I think it's individual because when you were mentioning with Tiger, I believe in some way that the way he would respond to shots that didn't go the way he wanted to, that it did motivate him at certain times to play better. And if that emotional reaction becomes a motivation to play better, then by all means do it. However, I have found that with a lot of people, going past the brink of anger, oftentimes they can't bring it back.
Mm.
And so that's why I recommend maintaining the equilibrium as if, okay, that shot didn't go the way I wanted it to. Well, it's already passed. And so that means that it's over. And so the past is over. I want to now look forward to a better shot. Because I found that the majority of people will move towards a greater sense of better playing if they're looking forward to a better shot instead of getting angry from a previous one. It all falls in line with moving towards pleasure instead of moving away from pain, so to speak. So I find that in terms of what your motivation is, your motivation will be propelled consistently if you're moving towards pleasure instead of moving away from the anger of a bad shot. So this is the reason I recommend moving towards a better outcome, because then you're moving towards feeling better instead of avoiding some bad feelings, because it will last longer if your intention is to have better shots instead of getting angry over past ones. And the truth is that when a shot doesn't go the way that you want it to, the past is over. The next moment has already moved on. And the maturity of a human being allows them to accept that the past is over. And really, as you were saying, that there's so many parallels with life and golf, because a bad shot, much like a bad memory for people, can be left behind. Just because you understand the reason a bad memory has happened doesn't mean that it's going to help you move on to the future. So the idea is to just allow the past to be behind you and over with, so that you can move into the future feeling even better.
Sure. So a good thing for us to play better in golf is to use those same things in our daily lives regularly to try to make ourselves be motivated by pleasure as opposed to pain. And my understanding of that is, if you're having pain, or if there's things that you're you're more worried about that's going to be negative, that's going to happen to you, it's better to not let that be what drives you. In other words, stops you from doing things that you really desire to do, to be more worried about what are the things that are going to make you happy and striving for those in your everyday life. And if you do that, then you're going to find that it's going to transfer to other parts of your life, like your golf game. And you're going to enjoy your game more, and you're going to enjoy life more. And that's really, those little words that you just gave us is huge insight into everyday life and golf, and how everybody can make their lives better by driving towards that pleasure motivation as opposed to avoidance of failure motivation.
That's correct.
Yeah,
That's
I mean,
correct. And
that's awesome.
yeah, and if you think about, if children had those green check marks versus the red X's, then they would be striving for green check marks instead of thinking, "Oh, I don't want to see the red X's." And so it triggers that thought as well. That and it's important for all of us. I think all of us. The more I get to know people through the years, it seems like what they're really looking for is happiness and to feel connected. And so the more connected you are with your environment in good ways, I believe that the more connected you will be with your golf game, so that you get better outcomes. I mean, it's really about connecting with the land, to see which way the green slopes, so that if you were to pour water over the green, which way would the water pour? And that'll give you a clear indication of the roll of your putt into the hole. And it's making these universal connections with the golf course and yourself with the golf course that will really make a difference in how you perform.
Yeah, it makes golf and life more of a spiritual journey, which is really, I think, what we're all trying to do, and to also be able to enjoy the journey. And I think that in life, that's what's the best part of life, is the journey, not knowing what's going to come, doing your best to make things happen and to be motivated by the positive, and then also to share that with others, which is what we're doing here today. So we're just about coming to the end of our show here. So I'd like to thank you for sharing with us all this wonderful information with all our listeners out there in Par Nation. And so before we wrap up here, I just want to ask you a few questions in closing. One is, do you teach any of these methods personally, or do you just support your book? So in other words, do you do any one-on-one type things with individuals, or do you do any speaking to groups? And if you do any of that, how would our listeners get in touch with you to be able to tap into the wonderful expertise that you have to offer to not only the game, but to life in general? Because I think that your insight is truly an inspiration.
Well, I appreciate that, Bernard, and I appreciate you asking as well. And yes, I do give private lessons. I give group lessons. I give talks. I just talked at the University of Maryland Eastern Shore at the PGA program there. And I got a great response from the young adults in the program there. And I'm going to be going back there. And also, there's a young man who's has a vision for a golf company that I'm going to be helping him design. And I do give seminars in the style of skills that I do give, which is neuro-linguistic programming. It's called NLP, which is the basis of all of these brain skills. And I've been mentored by one of the co-creators, Dr. Richard Bandler, and basically applied it all to golf. And if anyone would like to have me speak at their Chamber of Commerce meetings or universities or corporate gatherings, I'd be more than happy to do so, also on an individual level. I can be contacted at contact@playgolfbetterfaster.com, or my phone number, 718-751-5105. And although I'm based out of New York City, I do travel and would love to speak to more people about what it is that I have to say, because I don't think that much of how we use our brains is really talked about in golf. And people are constantly trying to buy more equipment, thinking that that's going to solve their golf skills. But really, what they really do need is just a great set of fitted golf clubs, and then use their brain to really start playing well.
Sure, use the equipment that they're already equipped with.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah. Well, Kalliope, it was an absolute pleasure. Thanks so much for taking the time. And as we say here at Breaking Par, until we meet again, try to keep it in the short grass.
It'll be a great pleasure. That's right.
All right. Take care.
Thank you.
All right.
You as well.